you'll jump back in.
All right, welcome everybody. This is Coach Adam and Coach Mike Parton from Fox Valley Wrestling Club. We are here today with the great one and only Brittany Marshall for our summer interview series. So Brittany, thank you so much for coming today. For those of you, she probably doesn't need an introduction, but we're gonna do it anyway. She's a two-time state champion in Texas from Texas in high school. Four-time All-American in college for Wayland Baptist University. She was a Women's Collegiate Wrestling Association national champ. Not many people can say that. She was part of the USA Wrestling Senior National Team, and she's currently coaching at North Central's first ever women's program over at North Central College in Naperville, Illinois. They had an awesome inaugural season in the 2019-2020 season. They got to wrap it up before the whole COVID stuff hit. Ended up with 5 All-Americans in their first season, taking 6 as a team, which is actually the highest out of any of the first-year programs for women's wrestling. So we're super pumped to have her here. She's got a lot of good stuff she wants to share with us. We have a special announcement coming up if you haven't heard yet, but we will get to that later. We want to learn a little bit about the Brittany Marshall first. So, Coach Parton, you take it over. I'm out.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And then thank you for joining us tonight, Brittany. This is awesome. We've been able to be able to speak to some of the best in the sport this summer, and at least, we can't meet in person and get the technique, but we can at least get that mental side of it. So we really appreciate you being here and sharing your time with us.
Anytime, it's an honor. I'm glad to be here.
So I know Coach Adam just kind of did the general introduction, but maybe you want to add anything and then kind of talk us through, how did you get involved with the sport? What's your journey kind of been like?
So funny story. Don't judge me. I actually got involved in the sport because in middle school in Texas, women's wrestling is available in high school, and only high school. It's not available for you in middle school. And in middle school, I did literally every sport you could. So when the wrestling coach came to a middle school, and he was trying to get all the girls involved, my track coach actually threw shot and disc, and he's like, "Brittany, you should try." I was like, "No, it's a little manly." He's like, "You throw shot and disc." I was like, "Yeah." So he's like, "You should still try." He goes, "Just go out there and try." And I was like, "Okay." Well, at the time I was weighing 165. So the girl that wrestled 165, he put her out there and he's like, "Okay, just go." He taught me one move, which was a double. And I was like, "Okay." So I doubled her, and she's like, "I think I can go a little harder." And so she started to go harder on me. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, she's trying to kill me." And so she actually, and then the head coach, he said, "Just go your hardest on her." And then she did, but she lost. And then he said, "Congratulations, you just now made a varsity team for high school." I was like, "I think he's playing." But he wasn't. He actually, somehow I ended up being signed up for the sport my freshman year going into high school. And I really did it because my track coach told me if I did it, he'd buy me the 10-pound bag of Skittles. It was really over Skittles, but it was the best choice I've ever made. And I haven't looked back. It's impacted me in such a way that it's indescribable, and it's helped me become the person that I am. So that's kind of how I got involved in the sport. Not everyone has, the bag of Skittles story, but that's basically what I did. I love food, so it was a win-win for me.
There you go. Yeah, no, I know there's, it's always funny. It usually has its roots back to, we've heard a lot of stories, and it usually has its roots back to some sort of incentive. And it's somewhere in middle school or elementary school, and it was somebody had experience, somebody didn't have experience, and suddenly they realized, okay, I have this. So you have a very unique side to that story with the bag of Skittles, but that's, stay proud with that. So, obviously coming through, the sport for women especially was emerging still. And the NCAA just announced that. We'll get to some questions on that later, but just, what have some challenges been that you've experienced being a female wrestler and obviously a very heavy male sport?
I haven't experienced as many as most other people have experienced. The main struggle that I've experienced within the sport is just being publicized just as much as the men are. Sometimes you look at women wrestling, you're like, "Oh, it's women's wrestling," and you're just like, you don't understand. Like when people say like, we don't have the muscle for it, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes, men's muscles are very apparent. Women's are not as apparent, but we still have the technique. We still have the ability. We still have that motivation and that drive to do the sport. And we still have the passion and the love for it. And I feel like the only experience that I've had is, not being looked in the same light. We don't have the same opportunities in a certain sense. Like right now, I believe there's only one D1 college available for women's wrestling, and it's a smaller college. However, you have all of these other D1 programs that are available for men just because they have more men. They have more men in the sport. In theory, they have just been more exposed than women, so there are more opportunities for them. And I feel like that's in the experience that I've had. That's the only struggle. We're not as publicized and we're not as advocated as the men are. And there's nothing, like, I understand men were the first ones to do the sport, and so I understand that's where it comes from. But with it being an emerging sport, I think it's time that we change that. We're in a process and we're in a state of mind where growth is that's what needs to happen. And I think that will, especially within the coming years, I think that will happen.
So, and obviously you've had and sustained a lot of success in your career. Just some of your accolades. You were a 2-time state champion, 4-time All-American, a national champion, a senior national champion. You made the team as well. So kind of through your journey, what do you think really the sport of wrestling has done for you versus if you hadn't experienced the sport? What do you notice with the success you've had and the lessons you've learned? How has that really helped you in life compared to, say, if you hadn't wrestled at all?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, I did a lot of sports. I did volleyball. I really have a love for track, and being in all of those sports and then coming to wrestling really, it doesn't just test you like physically or mentally. It tests you in all areas: physically, mentally, emotionally. And I had never been introduced into a sport that did that, to the point where I would walk into practice some days and I'm like, I quit. It's a different feel. It's like you quit, but you're still going to be here. You're still going to do what you're supposed to be doing, because it's teaching you more about who you are and what God put you here to do. And I think that's something that's very unique to the sport. And that's why I fell in love with it. And I push myself every day. On top of, it's one thing to meet friends and they're so like supportive of you and things like that. But when you meet wrestlers, that's a different type of support. That's a different type of love. When people talk about going to new ends for you, those are the people that they understand, and they that love and comfort that they give you, it's different because it's in an uncomfortable position. They love you and support you in uncomfortable positions because you're like-minded, and that's what I really appreciate and love that the sport has given me. And it taught me a lot about myself. I'm quick to sometimes get frustrated and be like, I can't do this. And then I'm quick to be like, you know what? I wrestle. I can pretty much do most things, with the exception of some. But I was like, no, I'm not a quitter. Wrestling has taught me, like, if you are in a hard position, if you're just going to quit, then you're going to lose the match. But if you're going to think through what you're doing, you're going to win. And even if you lose, like, you're still winning because you took the initiative to get through whatever it is that you were stuck in. Maybe it was getting, you're on that single and you couldn't finish. He was like, yeah, but I kept trying. I kept pushing. I was trying to persevere. Even if I didn't get it, I still was trying. And I think that's something, and I think that that's something that's important, especially in today's society, that we stress, because sometimes we get in a situation where we're just like, I don't think I can do this. It's important that that you feel and you have that confidence that you can make it through anything, as long as you have that confidence and that, that mentality, and that you can do whatever it is that you set out to do. And that's why, I love the sport. A lot of people ask me, like, why do you have the tattoo on your bicep? And that's a weird place to, like, in your, I was like, yeah, you think that? But I've been stuck in a single leg so many different times. And the only thing I can see is my arm. And my tattoo says, to thine own self be true. And so if I can see my arm and I can tell myself, to thine own self be true, girl, you better get that single leg. You better keep driving. Whatever you have to do, just do it. It's a constant reminder. This sport that's what it's about. It's about that love that you create for yourself that you didn't even know you had.
I think you hit on something there too that's especially true, that always resonates with me. And I know a lot of other wrestlers and people that have experienced a lot of different sports, that it truly is it's a unique experience that if you haven't wrestled, the camaraderie and the brotherhood and the things that you feel there with your teammates and your coaches is different than in a lot of other sports as well. You know, I know, I'm sure talking with Coach Adam, you, I, him, we can all sit down and we just have stories for days of just things that happen in wrestling. But no, I think that's definitely something that's a powerful message we've heard a lot, and I'm glad to continue to hear it, that it's a unique situation, it's a unique sport, but it does provide so many other things that, you know, you may not have necessarily experienced. Then obviously you've had support through the way, you know, through your experience. So can you kind of talk us through, you know, youth, high school, collegiately, even in, you know, as you're starting to move on into your coaching career and things like that, who have been some of your biggest influences?
Some of my biggest influences have been, and it's you know, so just unoriginal to say, but my coaches, all of my coaches from the time that I was in high school, when I started, from the time that, you know, I was in college, and even until till now, even with Joe, all of my coaches have been big influence in my mom and my dad. You know, my parents are very supportive. They weren't at first when I started. My mom was like, no. She's like, not my baby. I do not like. She came to one practice, and it just so happened that I was being thrown. And she's like, have you lost your mind? I was like, no, I'm fine. It's fine. It's fun. And she's like, oh, okay. But after, you know, her seeing how much joy it brought me, and it was also a way for me to convince her, instead of taking self-defense classes, which I hated, you know, wrestling kind of taught me that. And so she loved that. And then when she would come and she would see, she just loved, she got so into it, it was ridiculous. But, you know, it was that support. But my coaches, they have always influenced me in all types of different ways, especially in high school. I had two main coaches, Coach P and Coach Daniel, and they both became like second and third fathers to me. You know, my father's always been in my life, very supportive. But, you know, when you have like that wrestling father, you know, those people that they're gonna push you. You don't have to go home to them, you know, but it's a different thing. They didn't just want you to win. They wanted you to be the best version of yourself and do it in such a way that you would be proud of who you are, not so that they would, you know, and it was be the person that you want to be, and use wrestling to help you do that. And that's kind of something that I have used moving forward in my life. When I go into any room and I walk into any room and I talk to any girl, I of course I want them to win. I want everyone to win, you know, but I also want you to be the best version of yourself possible. I will always put my principles before winning. And that's something that, you know, I think my girls, they enjoy and they love, because as much as I want them to win, I want them to be happy and successful in any and everything they do, in addition to wrestling as well. And so that's what all of my, you know, from college, like I said, from high school to college to even now, that's what they have all taught me. And I think that's something that I want to carry into especially women's wrestling, because as a woman, we have an inability to hold on to things and harbor and get upset and think that we're not worthy when we are. And I think that, you know, just having someone like reiterate the importance of who you are and your worth to you, in addition to you being able to do this sport to help you, how do I say, like keep growing in a way. I think that's important, and that's what they've taught me. And I think that's the one thing that I want to give each and every one of my athletes.
So speaking of your athletes, you had the pleasure of being part of the inaugural season for North Central for women's wrestling. So, you know, we're obviously very interested to see how this goes, as, you know, the NCAA has made it an emerging sport, as 26 states have now added it. So, you know, just kind of first, as we're getting into this, how was your first season this year as a coach?
It was amazing. I enjoyed it. I got to be around some amazing coaching and learn a lot. I like to learn. So I constantly asked Joe and Cook and everyone all types of questions. I'm pretty sure I probably asked too many, but, you know, it was great. I had a good time. I love my girls. I'm only 23 years old, but when people ask me if I have kids, I'm like, I don't have any kids of my own, but I have 8 amazing girls. And they're just like, oh my God. I'm like, no. You don't understand, they're my athletes, but, you know, I look at them as if they're my own children. They all call me mom. So I'm just like, what? what's up, and it's amazing. And I would do anything for them. They understand I'm coach in the wrestling room, but when you need me, and if you need me at any point in time after that, I can be mom. We have girls from Oregon, California, Texas, Arizona, and their moms aren't there. And so it's important that they need someone outside of the wrestling room that can be that mom. And I just happen to be a woman and happen to, have those mom characteristics. But, when they need me in the coaching realm as well, they're quick to like, hey, coach, can we practice this day, this time? I really need to work on this. I need you to help me with this. And that's something that I think is awesome. And being at North Central with so many resources and such great coaches, it's a great influence. Mm-hmm. And I think, it's just a great place to be. And when you surround yourself with all that positivity, nothing but greatness is bound to happen. So I'm super excited. I was already super excited about last year and everything that was going on, and I'm super pumped about next year. I can't wait for us to win a national title, because we will. And so I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, with 8 girls and 5 All-Americans, it's definitely, it has to be in the talks.
Oh, yes, most definitely. I'm waiting for it.
So obviously you kind of just led into the next thing, the pandemic hit, a lot of crazy going on. So this is kind of a twofold question. So how has that affected the recruiting process? And then also too, kind of hinted at it, but maybe we can get a little deeper. What's the outlook look like next year for North Central?
So with the pandemic hit, and I'm going to be honest, when the pandemic hit, we were a little, shooketh. We didn't know exactly what was going to happen with the recruiting, but, moving forward, I think all the pandemic did was just make us work a little harder and really bring to light like our recruiting abilities. And I can say that we probably recruited more during the pandemic possible than probably any sport or any other coaches that you might meet. Mm-hmm. If it was possible for us to do during the pandemic, we did it. There's probably not an athlete that was available to talk that we didn't talk to or that we didn't speak with. And, we did as much as we can during this time, or we could do during this time. I think that I don't think it slowed down our recruiting at all. If we wanted to talk to an athlete, we still spoke to them. If we could, did so many Zoom calls, any and every, possible way to reach out to a student athlete, we did it. I think that, we did pretty good. I'm super excited about it with our incoming class so we had 9 freshmen last year. Well, not 9 freshmen. We had 9 student athletes last year. And we're actually more than doubling our roster going into next year. I think we're at, 27 incoming freshmen next year. So we have more than doubled that. So we're looking pretty good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, and then kind of one more question with girls wrestling. Obviously freestyle is being wrestled in college. So I just kind of wanted to see your thought on, do you think that could bleed the other direction and really heavily have an influence in a lot of these other states? And then also too, do you think folk style could ever make an appearance at the collegiate level?
Okay, you want my honest opinion?
Yes.
At this point in time and at the rate that it's going, if you're going to wrestle freestyle, I think it's best that you start in high school. I think it's best you start whenever you start, because people want to see, as much as there are some people that love to watch folk style, freestyle is that boom, bam, boom that you want to see. It's go, you in, you're out, and you're done. Like, and there's so much happening, and the amount that the energy that you produce and your stamp, everything's just going. And that's what people want to see. It's that entertainment. And sometimes folk style, you can sit there and be like, I don't know. I could go watch a baseball game and watch this match. And that's just how it's going. But I think that, that's where it's going to be headed soon. I think all, with the exception of Greco, that's where it's going to be headed. There might still be some states and places that are wanting to do mostly folk style. But, if women are wrestling in college freestyle, you're kind of, they're not going to be able to reach their full potential as much as they would have had they been exposed to that style a lot earlier than they had. It's like, they're like, one of my friends, Kayla Miracle, she's been doing freestyle since she was like 5 or 6. I started freestyle when I was in college. She had all those years on me that She can do things that I didn't even know existed because she was just exposed to it a lot earlier than I was. And that set me back a little bit, but I still had, all of the potential and everything that I have now. I just didn't have the experience. And if I had been exposed to it a lot earlier, it could have helped me that much more. And I think that is what the different states and the colleges and the high schools, I think eventually that is something that they will start to see, and they will want to expose their girls to freestyle a lot earlier than just having them do, Fargo and things like that.
Right. No, and I'm glad I did want your honest opinion there. So, it's because it is part of the conversation. Obviously, as a high school coach as well, I don't mean it unfortunately, but I do have that loyalty a little bit to folk style, just because that's obviously from IKWF all the way through high school and then into college.
Right.
That is what the males wrestle. But last week talking with Joe and a couple weeks ago talking with Coach Grunwald, they both made very good points on this. That aside from your guys like Jordan Burroughs and your David Taylors, there's still a lot of American wrestlers that when they hit the international circuit, like you just said, they're behind the 8 ball because they're competing against people from these European countries that's all they've ever wrestled. So there is that drastic difference. So I just like to see, if that's going to really have a heavy influence, especially, as these states start to bring it on, if they're going to keep it folk style or allow the girls to also go freestyle. So, I definitely appreciate your input on that, and it's the same message. So that's also good. So, and as we kind of continue on here on the topic, obviously, of women's wrestling, as it's progressed here, and it's really starting to have a heavy push now, which is fantastic. What do you see as some of the biggest differences from when you started to now in the sport of women's wrestling?
I think the amount of opportunities that have been presented to the young women, that's the biggest change I've seen. When I started wrestling and when we started looking at colleges, there were not as many colleges as there are now. Like, there are literally colleges popping up left and right. When I was applying to colleges, the only school that was in Texas that had women's wrestling was Wayland Baptist. Now there are 3 colleges I think 4, maybe 4 now, that have women's wrestling. That's amazing, but that goes to show how quick the sport is growing. And then you look nationwide, that's ridiculous. Those opportunities were not there when I was their age. You have, if you want to get, I don't know, maybe 7,000 miles away from your home, you're just like, well, this is the only place that's close, is even, remotely close to that. But no, now you have all these opportunities to grow and explore. And there are some people who have never left their state. Like, there are girls who have never left the state of Illinois. And basically back then, when I was looking, I was like, where can I go that's kind of close but not that close? Like, there's nowhere you can go that's not like from Texas to New York. That's just it's too far. But now there's so many different choices and options and opportunities, and I think that's amazing. And that's the real change that I've seen that I can say I'm really proud of, and I'm glad to see it, because now we're starting to evolve and kind of be where the guys are, and I think that's the the road that we need to be going down.
So I kind of got a little gentle reminder here, but as we have a younger crowd, with our club and things like that, sometimes we coaches take advantage of our knowledge. So maybe for some of our viewers here, and even those that'll watch this afterwards, can you just talk us through, the very quick, simple version of folk style versus freestyle? Just kind of break down some of the differences.
Yeah, I can't. So the main differences that I think are between folk style and freestyle is that folk style, first of all, you can start down, but not the simple down. But in freestyle, when you start down, we rarely start down, and if you do, you have to go straight flat. And that's how we are. On folk style, you try to get up. Freestyle, you do not want to get up.
Right.
Don't get up, stay down, but you keep moving on bottom. That's freestyle. Folk style is a lot slower than freestyle. Freestyle, everything, like I said earlier, everything moves quick. you can text someone. I don't even remember all of I think is it 12 or 10 for the folk style?
15.
See, I was
Yeah.
way off. That's freestyle. Got to. But in 15 is the tech in folk style, but in freestyle 10 is the tech.
Right.
Like, and you can get 10 so quickly in a match.
Right.
I remember I was wrestling a match, and I don't know. I think I had just blanked out, and I tripped over my own foot, and she got 4 points because I fell on my back. And so she got 4 points for that. And it was just, those are the main differences. One, freestyle, it's kind of its name. It's you kind of get free points sometimes.
Right.
And folk style, you have to work a little bit. I don't want to say harder, but the points are definitely harder to get.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so I think that's like kind of the main difference between folk style and freestyle. And you have to go top, bottom, and then freestyle is just you just start.
So you would say too, just kind of as we're given this little clinic on the main differences here, obviously then some of the technique is a little bit different. You have to be worried about a few more things in freestyle that's a little, and this is where folk style is a little more forgiving in the sense, especially when it comes to the back exposure, like you just said, but also in some other positions too, there's a little more freedom in terms of, you don't have to, you see some of these higher level wrestlers taking a little bit more risk in folk style than they do necessarily in freestyle, just because of that possibility of exposure so quick, and then boom, the points hit.
And I think another difference between the two is that when you're wrestling folk style, it's so easy to be like, oh, I need a rest. And, I can stay on bottom for a while and, but in freestyle, you can't. Like, if you're not up, there's no motion or no action being created within, some rests go so fast, it's to 5-6 seconds. But if there's no action, you're coming back up and you're starting right there. Like, you don't have time to rest. It's, you get your 30 seconds after the period's up. But other than that, you're just going. And I think that's another thing that really sets them apart is that constant action that's being created.
So, and we also talked a little bit now about, the sport being an emerging sport in the NCAA, and luckily we got education on what that means. So I know last week Coach Norton told us that I think you did just hit the limit for it to actually then become a sport now that there's enough schools across all levels, and then he kind of got into some of the intricacies. But more on just how fast it's moved and where it's going. What are your thoughts on what do you think it's going to look like within the next few years?
Within the next few years, I see women's wrestling being at the top of its game, to be honest. After watching all of the different colleges, adapt the sport and really just jump all in. It's something that I've never seen before. Like I said, I'm only 23, so I haven't been around that long, but I've been around long enough to know that has really ever happened, especially with a sport such as women's wrestling. And I really, like I said, I see it at its peak, because with all of it, how do I say, with everything that's been going on, it's just something that, you want to be involved in. You want to be a part of. It's just that great that you just can't help. He's like, okay, let's try this. Like, let's see where it's going. And that's exactly how the athletes are. That's why the numbers are growing. As much as the colleges and all of those programs are trying, okay, let's try this. The athletes are like that as well. And so like, as you keep adding those programs, the athletes are coming with them. And I think the more, when that continues, the numbers will hit. And I think pretty soon we'll be close to where the guys are, if not where they are. And I can't wait to see that happen.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something we're all looking forward to. So we're close to our announcement, but this is usually the point too. And we do have some questions from some of our wrestlers. So Michaela and Mason, Coach Adam, I may need your help here. You're the king at getting people back onto the screen. But we have a question coming from Michaela and Mason.
Okay, so my question is for Coach Brittany. What is a wrestling move that she would want us to learn?
I think that a very important wrestling move that is very effective on anyone, and that is simple to learn. As myself, I learned it in 2 minutes. Is a blast double. Anyone can do it. It's not hard at all, and it just takes, just this everything that you already know how to do. What did you say, Mason?
My question is, for Coach Brittany, what is her favorite wrestling move?
My favorite wrestling move. I don't really have a favorite, because I feel like when you play favorites, you kind of get stuck and you want to use that same one all the time. But sometimes people catch on, so you can't continue to use that same one. But if I had to pick a favorite, it would be the blast double. I'm really good at that one, and I can catch people off guard. I'm quick sometimes. So it's like boom, bam, and then they're on the back.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Those are great questions.
I also like suplex.
Ooh.
Which is not in folk style, but definitely in freestyle. All right, so we have reached the point in our announcement here. I'm going to invite Coach Hoger on, as he has been very There we go. All right, so Coach Hoger is going to kind of take over here for a little bit. Coach Adams is going to pop on too, but we are about to make our big announcement.
This is the quietest Coach Adams ever been, so I'm wondering if he passed out or something over there.
I'm sleeping.
So we do have an exciting announcement. Some of you may have already heard, but we decided to launch an all-girls wrestling club for the youth level, specifically 2nd through 8th grade. We saw the growth happening on the college side in the past couple of years. We saw the explosion of women wrestling in the high school in Illinois, and that's now becoming a sanctioned sport as well. So it's only logical that we need to start going on the youth side. We have always had girls in our club, but it's always been a small minority. We really kind of felt that to really grow it, we needed to have its own thing. We need to have the girls be separate. So we've actually joined forces with 3 other local IKWF clubs, which would be the Naperville Wrestling Club, the Oswego Wrestling Club, and the Aurora Tomcats. And the 4 of us are working together to form this new all-girls club. And the most exciting part about it is that we've solicited Coach Brittany to be our first all-female head coach team. And she's also going to be the first female coach, I don't know if she knows this or not, in all of IKWF. I don't think there's ever been an IKWF team that was head coached by a woman before. We've always had women coaches, but never the one running the show. So you'll be the first there too, blazing new trails for us. The overall plan is that we are going to run it as a separate club, even though the 4 boys clubs are kind of helping get it started. We're not running it that way. It's got its own board, its own leadership, and everything like that. We're just kind of helping get it launched. But it's going to be probably 2 days of practice a week. And then any of those girls on that team are also welcome to come train with the other boys programs if they want to get more days in. If they want to squeeze in an extra day, they can do that free of charge. All of the teams have agreed to do that. And we've also been working with some of the tournaments, including our own, to launch girls divisions in the winter season, which, as many of you know, there's not really a girls division. If you get a girl in your bracket, you're kind of lucky as a girl. But with all girls divisions, we think there's going to be maybe 5 or 6 different tournaments this winter that we can do that are all girls or have an all girls division, which is unheard of. So we're trying to get all that going, and bringing Brittany in was just one of the steps to get that to happen. So I don't know if we want to go from there other than saying yay.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. This is Coach Holger. Thanks for announcing that. I think we've kind of let the cat out of the bag a little early, Brittany. People are starting to catch on. We're trying to do some like behind the scenes work. You never really realize how much you have to get done in order to make it happen. And in the process of doing some of that, it kind of slips out and some people find things out. It's all good and grand. But for those of you who know Coach Hoger, the guy is an animal. He's the brains behind his operation. I'm glad that Coach Hoger was here to be able to announce that because this is his baby. But we have a lot of people on board. This is something special. Just the fact that we're going to have an all-girls team is awesome. But now on top of it, we're going to have an all-girls team coached by a female who is a bad dude. She's a tough wrestler. So the fact we're going to have an awesome coach who is also a female and is the first time ever in IKWF, I think it's going to help promote the sport a lot. So Coach Hoger, thank you so much for everything you're doing behind the scenes to make this happen because he's doing a lot. On that note, Brittany, kind of a question for you, or maybe even Coach Hoger, whoever wants to jump in. I had a question as far as, you look back at the history, and Coach Hoger kind of alluded to it, is like, every team, Naperville Wrestling Club, Tomcats Wrestling Club, and Oswego, and even like you look at some of the other teams, like Batavia is doing an awesome job too when it comes to female wrestlers. Every team has a handful of girl wrestlers. But we got to the point where like we got to do something different because it's just not working right now. So maybe you could, Brittany or Coach Hoger or anybody, maybe you could explain to us the whole point of joining forces with some of these other like-minded teams in the area who are here to promote the sport. So what's the purpose behind doing it with them rather than just doing your own Fox Valley thing?
I can answer. I mean, in my mind, there was 2 reasons why we did it. One, just talking to some of the girls that we had in the clubs in the past. Usually, first of all, if you're a girl wrestling at a boys club, you're pretty tough to begin with for you even want to even walk into that room with all these stinky boys. But girls that don't return for a second or third season, when we ask them why not, it's usually because they get to the point that they're junior high and they don't really want to wrestle with boys. I mean, they will, but that's not really as exciting to them. They want to wrestle with all girls, and it's not an option. So they just do something different. That combined with the fact that starting anything new is always hard. So if we want to start an all-girls club by ourselves and we had 12 girls, it's going to be really kind of hard to get appropriate aged and size partners for everybody with going from 2nd to 8th grade. So by partnering with all the other local towns, if we all can bring 8 to 12 girls the first year, all of a sudden there's 40 girls. And now it's pretty easy to find a partner that's similar in size, age, weight, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
it's gonna be exciting. I mean,
yeah.
I am super pumped for this. I know everyone who's involved with it, including those other clubs, they're ecstatic about it. And Brittany, we are so happy to have you on board. So thank you so much for stepping up with us.
What does Michaela think about it? I know Michaela already kind of knew about it. But what do you
Hold on, where's Michaela? Michaela, we're bringing you on.
Our girl that's on the line.
Where's she at?
None of us know how to unmute her, though.
I got to figure this out. I'm not very good at this technology. Crap. All right.
She might be self-muted.
Yeah, maybe. All right. Well, there she is. Michaela. So Michaela was actually at one of the camps with Coach Brittany earlier. So Michaela, are you pumped to have Coach Brittany on board? Are you going to learn her blast double? Are you going to blast double Coach Brittany?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good luck with that one.
All right. So Coach Brittany, I got another question maybe that you could answer. Hoger, I think it'd be hard for you to answer this one, putting yourself in the shoes, but I'm going to try. You can try if you want. So I want to give you a scenario, Brittany, and kind of just to feed the information to the people who are interested maybe in it's called, by the way, it's West Suburban Girls Wrestling Club. Okay. Probably should have said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a minor detail. So here's a scenario. Say you're a 5th grade girl. Hoger, good luck. And you've never stepped foot on a mat and you've never even watched a match, but you see this flyer for the West Suburban Girls Wrestling Club and you decide you want to give it a try. Can you kind of walk us through, like, what might they expect? And this could be for the girls, this could be for the parents of the girls who are thinking, but what might a girl expect as far as joining this club? What kind of gear do they have to wear? What does a practice look like? What does a competition look like? And girls' hair, by the way, I put this in the notes. Girls' hair, like, girls worry about their hair. What are they going to have to do with their hair? I mean, it's a very loaded question, but, like, could you just kind of, what would these girls expect if they're going to sign up for this first ever West Suburban Girls Wrestling Club, coached by the one and only Brittany Marshall?
I can say that when they first join, first of all, they should be expecting a lot of fun because the sport's fun. Let's just face it, it's amazing. And as far as their hair, well, it depends. Maybe if they want to wear headgear, that's okay. I actually have recently learned how to braid my athlete's hair. If you speak to them, they say I sucked. I got better. I got a lot better. Now I know how. So I know how to braid hair now. I can put it up in any type of, it's called little design, whatever you want. I can help them with that. We do wear singlets. So it's basically, my mom used to call it a space suit. So it's like it's like a tight singlet. It's really, it kind of looks like a wrestler. It's restless. And on top of that, the typical wrestling shoes and things like that. If you want to be cautious about your knees, we have knee pads. Some people even go so far as to try to wear elbow pads. That's okay. And things like that. And the typical day in the room would be, we come into practice. I think something that I think is important is when you first start practice that we started together. We started in the circle, and we announced what we're going to work on that day, and we talked about everyone about how our day was for a quick moment. We just we come together, and I think that's something that's really important. You come together before and after every practice. Just to have that cohesiveness of the team. And we're just gonna, start every day with a game, because I think you should do that. It's fun, start off that way. And then we're gonna work on whatever we had discussed that for that day, whether it be, we're gonna work on single legs, we're gonna work on that blast double, maybe a high crotch to a finish and something like that. And then we're going to, when we end practice, like I said, we're gonna end with a chant to break it out, and we're going to end stretching. So typically, it's kind of like all the different sports that you've ever done, but just a little more togetherness.
Love it. And I like the idea of the fun part. I know so North Central's my alma mater, so I like to go up there once in a while and just walk around. And I went up there, it had been a couple months ago, right before you girls left for nationals. And I walked up in the practice room, and you girls were up there practicing. You weren't really practicing. You're like playing a game with a ball and throwing stuff around. And I don't know. That's huge. That is so huge for wrestling, especially for us little kids. I'm not. Well, I'm kind of.
Right. Right.
Especially for us little kids. Like, we just want to go there and have some fun. Maybe learn a few wrestling moves here and there, but I'm here to have some fun. So it's awesome that you're on the same page as the rest of us. Coach Hoger, we have a ton of questions on here. Do you want to kind of take over since this is your baby?
I don't know when it became my baby. I thought we were doing it together, man. I could definitely ask questions.
All right.
So maybe I can answer a question or ask a question. We talked about freestyle, and obviously Brittany sounds like she prefers freestyle, which is totally cool. I think for our youth club, we'll probably end up doing both. Just because we're not going to find a freestyle tournament in the winter because the state's just not set up that way. But in the spring, we will. So for you guys that are interested, we'll probably do both, which is what all the boys teams do anyway. Do a little folk style in the winter, a little freestyle in the spring. So Brittany, since you've done both, maybe you can help us answer the question of how much stuff can translate between the two. Like your favorite move is the blast double. Obviously that's both, right? What other kinds of things translate between the two?
I think that when you talk about freestyle and folk style, there's a lot of things that just they coexist between both styles. Like the only real difference is just when you're on bottom. A lot of people think, oh my gosh, it's so hard to learn. Like when we get girls, especially freshmen, they're like, I don't know how I'm gonna deal with learning freestyle. If you know folk style, you basically know freestyle. There's really minor differences between the two styles, and with the most important difference being that when you're on bottom, you're not trying to get up, but they're still like continuously trying to get things on top, So if you're on bottom, they're trying to get a lace, they're trying to get a gut, those are the things that they're trying. But for the most part, like everything is the same. It's just a lot quicker, and some moves are easier to get and things like that. But my like you mentioned, my favorite move is the blast double. So when I was coming into college, Coach Meister, who's my coach at Wayland, he's like, you're really good at the blast double. I was like, yeah. And then he was I really struggled with the lace. I'm not very good at the lace. I was like, okay. So he was like, and for my entire freshman year, we worked on that. And he's like, you know what? If you can four them so many times that you tech them, just four them. So I literally just blast doubled every girl I wrestled until I just tech them. So, it's just three. And it was fine. I was really good at it, and it was really quick. But, eventually I learned that there was a lot of other things that I knew how to do than I learned from folk style that I could use in freestyle.
That's awesome, especially when we're not quite sure how high school is going to look in Illinois yet long term. Knowing both is not going to be bad. And then once you get to college, you're already ready to go in freestyle. So with that being said, with obviously things taking off with high school and college, what do you think is the most important thing with getting things rolling on the youth side?
I think the biggest thing is getting parents to, a little girl is quick to be like, oh, that's cool. Parents are a little hesitant, and that's where the problem comes, because they don't want their child to get hurt or get injured or things like that. That's how my mom was. But you also have to you have to expose your child and let them. Sometimes she won't get hurt. Sometimes she will, but she can also get hurt she can get hit with a softball playing softball. She can get hurt doing any sport that she does. And that's a part of life. Sometimes you get hurt, sometimes you don't. It's a game you got to be willing to play in order to really help your child figure out what it is that they love to do. And I think that some parents, when you expose the parents to that and you show them like, hey, she's really good at this. She really loves doing it. And that's what's important. Helping your child do something that they love to do, not just that you want them to do. And I think that once we get over that barrier and we help the parents understand that, we take great measures to make sure that your child is safe, and you help them understand that to like the best extent possible, that's when you'll really see the growth. Because some parents are still in that mindset where they don't think, they think it's a man's sport. I'm just like, it's a we sport, and that's what's important for us to learn.
I agree with you. I think that the parents are the biggest obstacle in getting girls to try contact sports in general and getting over that hump. So taking the parents out of it, from the girls' perspective, from the wrestlers' perspective, what do you think their biggest obstacle might be with joining a sport like wrestling?
I think one of their biggest obstacles would be like them not thinking that they were strong enough. And I know growing up, we had a lot of girls like, oh, I'm too small. And some girls are, oh, I'm too big. And like, the thing about wrestling is whatever size you are, it's perfect. You don't have to be small. You don't have to be big. You can be whatever you are. And that's okay, because wrestling is an accepting sport. And I think that's what we need to get the girls to understand as well. It's that how you are and who you are is perfect for the sport. And that's something that's very unique about wrestling. It's you literally come as you are, and that's fine. And I think that when we get the girls to do that, and you help them build their confidence, because that's what wrestling does. It definitely helps you build your confidence and be more accepting of who you are and what you have to offer, and how, and the things that you're good at. It brings those to light, and some things that you're not. But I think that when we get the girls to understand that wrestling is going to help you in that sense, that's when we'll really see the sport take off. And the hesitations that they might have, that's when I think we'll see those disappear.
I agree as well. Some of these girls may have an anxiety coming into a room full of boys, and I don't know if you've experienced that, or maybe you can talk about that, and maybe how that might be different now if they walk into a room full of female wrestlers, if it might be a little bit different for them.
Yes. I actually had that experience a lot when my freshman year. And when I would walk, I actually wrestled with guys more than any female in the room, just because I was a lot stronger than most girls. So I would actually wrestle with the guys, and I was actually weaker than the guys and for a while, until like I started pushing myself. And I hate losing. So when I would lose to them, I would work out a little bit more. I would push myself a little bit more. I got a little faster. So I was actually, out of the 10, 15 guys that we had on the team, I was in the middle of, beating half of the guys and still working my way up. So if you walk into that room and you think to yourself like, oh my gosh, I'm the only girl, there's power sometimes in being the only girl. That sets you apart from the men, not only because you're a woman, but because you have that mindset that you can walk into the room. Just walking into the room is just amazing. And I think that's something that some girls may be like, oh my goodness, I don't know. But there's power in that. But there's also power into walking into a room of females and be like, all right, I see people that look like me. I see people that have struggled in the same sense that I have. I see people who can do what I do just as fast, just as much strength. They have no extra advantage than I have. you know, and so it's you know, we're equal here. And so I think that's something that when you walk into a room, I think that's what helps them be comfortable. I think a lot of girls will say, I don't care if I'm in a room of guys or a room of girls. So a lot of them do, you know, and I think that's important when you put them somewhere where they're comfortable, because when you do that, that makes learning so much easier for them. It's like, okay, well, if you look over and you see, if I'm wrestling in the same room as Jordan Burroughs and he's hitting a double, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, I want to hit the double like that, I can't do, he's Jordan Burroughs. I can't do that. But what I can do is do a blast double how Brittany Marshall does a blast double. And that is fine, you know, but that's when you start comparing yourself, and that's when you start getting down to yourself because you can't do it like them. And that's perfectly fine, but you're still enough, and how you do it is still enough. And I think that's something that we need to focus on.
Yeah, I think most of the girls in our club and the other local clubs that are already wrestling, they're kind of past that worrying about the boys' standpoint. I think where the real benefit with the all girls club is going to come in is that it'll be easier for them to invite their friends to come. It'll be easier for them to recruit a friend that might want to wrestle, but is like, nope, not going in the room full of boys kind of thing. So for all you girls listening, when we start up in the fall, everybody's got to bring a girlfriend to practice. Let them come try it for a week, then decide if they like it. No boys messing it all up for them. On the boys' side, we always hear the connection between wrestling and football, two contact sports. There's a lot of translation between the two, especially with tackling, obviously. And like wrestling, not a lot of girls play football, but there are tons of girls playing other sports. I'm involved with girls basketball. My daughter plays girls soccer. How do you think wrestling might be able to help some of these women, young ladies, improve in their other sports? So if they're wrestling with us in this season, how might it help them in another sport in the off season, since you are a multi-sport athlete as well?
I think after wrestling my first season, and I went to track and I went back to volleyball, I realized that wrestling helped me become bigger, better, faster, stronger in everything that in all the sports that I was involved in. In volleyball, I was worried about, applying pressure, not hitting. I used to hit the ball too hard. And so with wrestling, you learn your strength. You learn that, okay, if you push too hard, then you're not going to get what you want. But if you don't push hard enough, you're still not going to get, you have to find the balance. And I think wrestling teaches you that. It will teach you, how would I say? It will provide you with the tools that are necessary for all the other sports. Because if you think about it, wrestling is all of the other sports just put into one, kind of, with the strength and the speed and the agility. It's everything involved in one. And most people don't think of it like that. But when you have to, because what other sport can you, how do I say, what other sport do you need strength, power, explosiveness, and aggression in? All of them put into one. And I think that when you do, that's why when people say when you do wrestling, everything else is easy. That's true, because you've practically done everything else.
Yeah. So some of the other sports I coach, the coaches will ask me, well, at wrestling, what do you guys do for conditioning and stuff like that? I'm like, what do you mean with conditioning? Wrestling is the conditioning. There's no other, this is it. Everything is using 100% of your effort all the time. There's no get ready for it. It's all the time.
Well, nothing gets you ready like wrestling conditioning. It's like, what sport? If you're doing wrestling conditioning is your conditioning. If you can run a mile, and I guarantee you are more tired from doing 6 minutes of wrestling than you were from that mile.
Yeah, people that have wrestled don't understand 6 minutes is a very long time.
A very long time.
No clue. A few more things we had for you, Brittany. So maybe the kids don't necessarily care, but the parents might. But when you're in high school and you're getting ready to kind of make the transition to college, can you tell us a little bit about the college scholarship process, how that works, the recruiting side of it, and how wrestling might have more benefits over another sport, perhaps, in terms of college?
So I actually went to an NAIA school. And so it was a little different than most D3 schools or D2 or D1. But what that meant for me, I was actually a first gen. So I'm a first generation, so my parents didn't go to college. So when I was learning about all of the college scholarships and endowments and all of that. It was really different for me. But what really, we had to do our research. I was also I don't know if we have this program in Illinois at all, but I was in a program called AVID. And so they really helped me figure out all of the difference between like the colleges and things like that. And the main difference that I found, I was going to go to Oklahoma State University to study pre-therapy, and that's pre-physical therapy. And then I applied to Wayland Baptist. And what I really noticed was when you go to a bigger school, of course the tuition is going to be a lot bigger, higher. And that was a difference. And sometimes it's not, you really have to figure out where you want to be. But a lot of parents think that, all of the scholarships and things like that, it's important that you really understand the scholarships, because let's say if you go to a D2 school and you go to an NAIA school, if your child is going to that NAIA school for wrestling, that means if your child doesn't wrestle, then their scholarship is taken away. And if they go, and that's completely upon the coach's choice. But if they go to a D2 school and they end up not wrestling, nothing changes. And I think that when you really have to do your research on those things, and all colleges are different. People can say, oh, well, I want to go to this college, but it's cheaper than this one. Well, if you're only looking at, scholarships or, grants and things like that, and you're not looking at the overall price, that's not going to help you. I can give you a $32,000 scholarship, and let's say Duke University can give you a $60,000 scholarship. Well, that means nothing if their overall tuition is $100,000, So it's important that
As a dad of 4 kids, you're freaking me out with dollar amounts right now.
I'm sorry. It's a lot of money, you guys. So
My kids, if you're at home logged in, get scholarships. We need this to happen.
yes, get scholarships overall. It's important that you get scholarships and you get to an amount that is affordable for your family. If that makes any sense. If that answers the question at all, I go on tangent. I'm sorry.
All right, so back on our youth club, if you run into the elevator and there's a couple young girls there and you got 60 seconds to give us a pitch on why they should come join the wrestling club with Coach Brittany this winter, what would you tell those girls?
Because wrestling is amazing and it will help you be the best version of yourself.
I agree.
You will be able to do anything after it.
And there's also Skittles involved, I heard.
Oh, yes, most definitely. I love Skittles. I love tacos. We can have taco and Skittle day at my house. It's amazing.
That's how we recruit kids. That's how we get kids to try a sport.
Yes, most definitely. I'm like, Coach Brittany, I'm like, I'm on my way. You want a bag? But that's just me.
I know what Coach Brittany's getting for Christmas gifts from the kids this year.
I would love that.
Just real barrels of Skittles.
Yes, you're signed up, so you have to bring them now. Just so you know, it's a done deal, and all these kids are watching this. So, but yeah, Coach Brittany, biggest thing is, we're here. We wanted to hear a little bit about you, a little about your background, your coaching philosophy, and all that stuff. But really, we also wanted to use this as an opportunity to promote you and the girls wrestling club and make that big announcement. This is groundbreaking. What we're doing here, what all this behind the scenes stuff that Coach Hoger, Coach Part, myself, and all the other clubs are doing. Like, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but this is going to be something special. This West Suburban Girls Wrestling Club is going to be something special. And Brittany, we want to make you the face of it. That's the thing. You're going to be the face of girls wrestling in Illinois, so we're super pumped to have you on board. This is not just a Fox Valley Wrestling Club thing. This is promoting the sport, promoting girls and wrestling and all that stuff. So we're super excited for that. We're super pumped to have you on board. It was awesome to hear from you, Coach Parton, Coach Hoger. You guys have anything else that you wanted to kind of throw out there with her?
No, that was just, we really appreciate your time, and we are looking, I know Coach Adam does a great job of really selling our excitement, but truly we are very much looking forward to seeing how this goes and to continue to make this something big. And just, the future is bright, especially with you taking over on the realm. And I am very, very grateful that we were able to be a part of this on the ground floor to get this going.
Yeah. And if you don't think we're excited about it, I'll show you my text message history at like 3 a.m. from Coach Park. That was crazy. And I know, Brittany, I think I've texted you pretty late a few times, so I'm sorry. You have to forgive me. But no, pumped to have you. Appreciate it. And then as far as the whole club stuff goes, for anyone who's out there who's interested, just keep an eye out for that stuff. Fox Valley, Naperville Wrestling Club, Oswego Wrestling Club, and the Tomcats. They're all going to be sending out stuff as we get closer. There's a lot of logistical stuff we got to do through the state and through bank accounts and this, that, websites and all that. There's a lot of stuff we have to get going first, which is all in the process. But be on the lookout for some advertisements from your local club. Be on the lookout for through Facebook. We already have a Facebook page. There'll be other social media platforms. There'll be like flyers going out to schools, stuff like that. But so if you're interested, share it. Come on out. Come meet Coach Brittany. We're going to start up hopefully here soon, and or when all this COVID stuff gets done. But yeah, so we're pumped. Thanks a lot, Coach Brittany. Appreciate it. Anybody else?
Thank you.
That's it.